You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Kraft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Kraft.
So, welcome everybody. This is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast, and with me is a dear friend and fellow coach. It's Lynn. Kate is founder and executive director of Sound Sense. She began her practice due to a passion for finding available services and solutions for her daughter, who she wanted evaluated for possible auditory processing disorder, APD. There was nothing locally for her to turn to. So as a result, in April of 2018, Kate decided to start Sound Sense, a Facebook group devoted to low gain amplification and other technological treatments for auditory processing disorder. Since then, Kate has helped countless children, adults, and parents navigate the process of living with auditory disorders. However, this experience honed her skills and uncovered her true passion for helping others live the best life they can each and every day. Her superpower is inspiring and empowering others to shine by defining themselves and their businesses. Kate joins me today to discuss perspective on trust. Welcome, Kate. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me, Gail. It's a treat.
It's going to be so much fun. So before we began, Kate and I kind of talked about, so what is trust? And when we talk about perspective, what are the different perspectives that we can use? So for me, when I think about trust, I think about, in the past, letting the past go. That's one of the cornerstones for me about trust. Whereas Kate, tell us a little bit about your perspective, which is a little different.
I really look at trust as something that I remind myself I've earned because of my past experiences. Not that I have to wallow in them or spend the day on the Christmas I was 6, but just that those experiences make it so that I can trust a lot of things in my world now in ways that I couldn't, because I learned to trust.
Learn to trust yourself. You learn to trust, and I think that is the first thing, is trusting yourself. So for me, so trust is a psychological process. Our brain's job, subconscious, is to keep us safe and keep us being correct. We are always correct. They're wrong, we're right. It's our subconscious's job to do that. It's our conscious mind's job to go, wait a minute, to be a little discerning about what's going on, right? And so a lot of times our feeling of distrust is because we want to keep ourselves safe and at a distance from a person, a situation, an experience. And it's because the past comes up. It's like, oh, that's happened before, or I've been with that person before, or I've experienced this before, and I am not interested in going there. Now, in some cases, this is cool. This is keeping you safe. But in many cases, we miss opportunities because we don't allow ourselves to take that risk. So part of trust is risk taking.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about, you don't have to get into details for you in particular, but let's say you have a client who has gone through and navigated some amazing things in life, but is now coming to you because they're not moving forward, and you discover that it's because they don't trust people enough to be vulnerable.
I think that's something that comes up, but in looking at that with a client, what I would look at is, again, from my perspective, that it's about trusting yourself first, looking at what is it you don't trust that may make it difficult to be vulnerable. I can give you an example. I have a fabulous client who is just super at helping people approach their body image stuff. She's not a weight loss coach or a fitness trainer, but she really helps people look at whether they're living their body's life the way they want, whether their lifespan's going to be as longer than their health span. She's all about health. Well, we found out that there are some things in her path where she's saying, I'm not sure I can help people with that. So she and I are working on her finding out what she doesn't trust so that she can find that vulnerability to help her clients to that health that she wants to help them find. And I truly do think that that's a cycle we go through. So we may have to work through it a slightly different way at our next session.
Well, know that, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I don't want you to go to the next thing, because this is so true for most people. This is good enough, right? I have roof over my head, I've clothes on my back, feeding the kids, that's good enough. That I'm living a good enough. Are they excited about their life? No. Is there passion in their life? No. Do they even have purpose in their life? Probably not, because they don't believe that they can take that step. Right. So I'll give you another example, then I want to get back to where you were heading. Okay. I had a potential client that I did a complimentary session with. And the second that we talked about blocks and restrictions, that I would help relieve the past, understand the gift and the lesson, and relieve this weight that's holding you down, he immediately stopped. He says, I've been to shrinks. I have been to my past, and I'm not interested in going there anymore. We're done. We're done. He was that afraid, right, of taking that next step. Now, this means that he doesn't trust himself. He doesn't trust that he can release the pain. Right. And so talk to me more about your perspective. So I'm about, there's pain that you're carrying and it's heavy. It's like luggage. We want to get rid of those chains and leave the luggage behind, but not without getting the gift that this experience gave you. You're all about the gifts that you do know about, actually maximizing those gifts. So let's talk about maximizing those gifts from the past. Give us some examples.
Well, and I'm working on a project called The Gifts of COVID, because I had a pretty darn lousy case of COVID. So this project, I think, kind of works the way I work in a bigger way, which is that I'm looking at what did I get out of COVID that makes it so I trust myself to be my next best self. And in a really simple example, I didn't have much lung capacity. So I started walking. And then one day I thought, I wonder if I can trust myself now. And I ran. And I only ran part of the way around the block. But now I'm running on my treadmill about 10 kilometers a day. And that's about trusting myself for one little step, but it's also about an important piece I know we want to get to, which is when I ran out of steam at the end of the half block, I didn't decide to never run again or to feel all the pain and agony of COVID all over again. I decided it was time to walk home and try again tomorrow to run a little bit further.
Sorry about that. So that's a great example of taking small steps. One of the things that, especially when it comes to trust and vulnerability, that I like to work on with my clients is taking those small steps. And I look at life and change like an elastic. Now most people say, so here's the elastic, I'm going to stretch it this far. And of course you're going to get afraid. That elastic is going to break. And so will you, if you try to take your step from here to way over wherever it is that you're planning to go, right? Without preparation, without planning, and without baby steps. But if you take that same elastic and you stretch it just a little bit till it's a little taut, then relax it. And stretch it a little bit more than the time before, and then you relax it. You start to build confidence in yourself. You start to build an ability to make choices that are okay. You start to build the ability to, when the choices are not okay, to adjust. And I think that is really, really key. So many people are afraid of being wrong, right? Part of trust, right, is where is this situation, where is this person, where is this experience going to take me? And you project and you make up stories about where it's going to take you based on past experiences usually, but not based on the current situation that you're in. Right?
And so maybe that's where our perspectives join, because it really is about how we use that past information. Where we're using it, I'm using it to make it so that I'm brave enough to have my best future by trusting that it really was pretty tough in those spots that are informing whatever choice I'm making. It's not about ignoring the past. It's about using that information to say, I really can go for this.
Right.
And in looking at helping my clients, even you talk about my audiology practice, even helping clients who are hard of hearing to look at what they have and build on that.
Right. It's so easy to wallow in the self-pity, right? Because then you don't have to put effort forward. So part of trust and part of vulnerability also means working on yourself every day.
So true.
And it is exhausting, right? But it is also rewarding. There are no rewards if there is no effort. There is no glory if there's no trying, right? There's no beauty if there isn't an act of some sort made. And so to live a life that, and my word is delicious, that is delicious, right? It takes risk taking, right? And as you practice that risk taking, then you become okay with failure. Now, one of the things, so Kate and I we're using the same mentor at the moment. And so we are in a mastermind group together. And one of the things that I like that he says is give yourself permission to stop doing what you're doing. Right? So give yourself permission. And I do that with my clients. After 3 months of doing something new, stop, look back, how'd it go? Right? And for those who want to grow, did you stretch yourself enough to make a difference? Right? So talk to us a little bit about the risk that you had to take in order to find the resources and create a network for your daughter, and the risk you're taking right now to change the direction and the trajectory of your life.
Oh my goodness. Well, actually, the story's kind of fun. I found a resource for my daughter online in one of the old-fashioned kind of AOL style chat rooms at 3:00 in the morning. So the first thing I had to trust was my evaluation of another human being who was awake at 3 a.m. because we suddenly just connected, and I was talking to someone who got the struggle that had been basically 12 years at that point. And so I made 3 or 4 really scary, brave decisions. I put my daughter on a flight to Washington, D.C., went to a strange practitioner at Gallaudet University, laid it all on the line. And in that moment, what I got was a young 12-year-old child turning around and looking at me for the first time in her life and saying, "Mom, I have a lot of questions." And from that point to this, my life revolved around making it so other families could have what I got in that moment, that my daughter got communication and I got relationship. So really, it was an easy step to move on now that my daughter is a junior in college, and don't get me started on bragging about her. It was really easy to move on to saying, actually, I'm still about making it better for the other families. I want to help. And in finding the tools and skills to do that, I'm using all of my previous experience and taking some pretty brave leaps to do it as a coach and an advisor, instead of as someone who has a good link to helpful technology.
So the lesson for others in this moment and in that story, right? Many times for most of us, taking a leap of faith, which is trust, usually isn't self-serving. It really takes a lot of self-trust to take that leap for our own purpose, our own passion. So for example, our stories are similar in that it's because of our children that we made changes, right? Mine is, my daughter was 1.5 years and I was on welfare, living in a roach infested apartment. And I said, this is not going to happen. And I went to work and it cost me. I made less money working because I had to pay for daycare, for childcare, right? And transportation. So I made less money than if I just stayed home. But within 3 years, I owned a home, had a new car, and was a manager at a pretty prestigious firm. That doesn't happen staying on welfare. But I did all of that because my child was not going to get raised in a roach-infested apartment on food stamps. That she was going to have opportunities better than I had. And I took the chance and I did it. Now, becoming a coach, which I did over a decade ago, I was first a business coach and a consultant because that's my background, is business processing and re-engineering and stuff like that. That was easy. And I took training for life coaching because I felt that I needed better people skills. I needed better communication. I needed to understand people first, then process and procedures, people first. And I needed tools, I thought, for the people first. And I took this course by our mentor. By the way, that's Mitch Matthews. And I found my purpose. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to make a complete shift in what I'm doing in my life. Completely stop at, like, right now, if you want me to work with you on process improvement, I'm going to work with your leadership team on coaching so that they figure out how to do process improvement. Right? I'm not going to do the process improvement. I can do it, not really. I want you not to depend on me. I want the business to, as a business, elevate, right? And me implementing a process is not going to elevate the business. But me helping your leaders learn how to find the opportunities and let go of the past will. Okay. Again, it's because of that experience that you had, that experience that I had with our children, that we succeeded, that when it was time for me to take my step, and now you're taking your step into this brave world of entrepreneurship as a coach, it takes some, pardon my language, balls. Right? Because there is no guarantee day in and day out. I have had 6-figure years as a coach. I've had not such 6-figure years as a coach, right? It depends on whether or not my conversation with you is a conversation with someone who's ready. right?
It's speaking to that. How much of trust is about whether we're ready?
Right.
That I work with clients and I look at their lack of trust, whatever that block, whatever that barrier is, as a boulder. And I'm about making it so that there's water flowing around it, even if that boulder's still there, because the rock will wear away. It's an old cliche, but it's true. And so if I can get someone to do 10% of their next best purpose by saying, it's good for your kids, isn't it? I will. But I'm working towards a place where my clients, people in my life in general, trust themselves enough to just have that wonderful wash of the freedom of being at choice and choosing their best path without that boulder of not trusting self and not being stuck. And to go to our mutual mentor, Mitch Matthews, heck, let's give him a shout out. He really does a great job. And what I love to do around that is to just remind people that it really comes down to trusting yourself. If you wonder why it's so easy to write your friend's biography, why it's so easy to write an ad for applesauce compared to saying, I'm Kate Lynn and I'm a coach, that's tough work because it gets to the core of our self-trust. It gets to the core of what we actually believe about ourselves.
Well, that and part of this trust thing is one of the other topics I'll be talking about is, being part of a tribe. And we are conditioned to be concerned about what the neighbors think. Right? What are the neighbors going to say? Keep your dirty laundry. I was like this way, keep your dirty laundry in-house. Don't let the neighbors know what's going on, right? I was raised with that I was raised all around secrets, and that's a whole other conversation, which is interesting because my alchemy is all about trust. So the dysfunction that I grew up in was very severe for me, right? Because I can't be truthful and I can't be trusting if I'm keeping secrets. And so that is why I don't work well in corporate above a certain level, because it's not trusting. It's not truthful in many cases, not all. But my experiences were those of, I will give you an example of when I decided to get out of corporate. And then I went back into it and it was a big mistake. I was on the board of directors for a big company, and our CEO had an all hands meeting and played the song, Don't Worry, Be Happy. And I'm there listening to him doing this whole Don't Worry, Be Happy theme, knowing that the very next day was going to be a major layoff. I was beside myself with the lack of integrity going on at the corporate level, at the C level. It was very, very difficult for me. I actually got in line. I didn't get laid off that time, but the next time I basically said, take me, I don't want to stay here. Take me, right? And so the point being is that learning to trust myself and trust my choices took some time, because I stayed in businesses because, well, what will people say if I leave? I stayed in a marriage. What will people say? So look at a situation that you're in that maybe isn't optimal. Maybe you're not really, really as happy as maybe you could be. You're okay, but you're not deliciously happy, right? You're not biting into an orange and the juice isn't running down your chin, right? Life is not that delicious for you. It could be that delicious. So what choice are you making because of other opinions? And that's part of trust. You don't trust your own judgment based on someone else's opinion. If you tell little white lies, you don't trust your own situation and your own choices based on someone else's opinion, right? I can't imagine living with that many lies. I can't imagine living with that much stress, because you create stress. There's more stress in you creating a lie than just blurting out the truth. Trust me. Trust me.
Isn't it true?
Yep, for sure, for sure. So you chose the conversation around trust. I had a list of things that I'm talking about for 2022. And so why did trust resonate with you? What was the thing that made you go, I like that one?
I genuinely believe that the reason my life feels pretty darn delicious right now is because I am so focused on the ways I've earned trusting myself. And it is making me more trusting of others. I ended a 25-year marriage during COVID. And in finding that I could trust again, I just decided to dive all in to what it meant to trust myself and do exactly what I want, all the way down to every bite of food being something I trust I want to eat. It's a kind of practice I've decided to engage in, and it just feels really good. So I'm happy to talk about it.
I love that comment about down to the food I eat. So I'm spending some time with my son and his family, and they had their neighbors over for dinner the other night. And, dinner's at the table. And we didn't say grace, but I did take a look at my food and I thought, how thankful am I that I have this in front of me to eat, that I have this family around me to be with, and these friends and neighbors to share this meal with. How lucky am I? Right. And so taking little steps of appreciating yourself and appreciating the situation you're in and acknowledging that you have what you created, even the bad stuff, right? And that's okay, because there is no bad and there is no good. If you coach with me, you kind of start losing that perspective. It's like, yeah, so why is that such a big deal, right? That's just the story that we make up in our head. But appreciation and self-love, I think trust is about love. Everything to me comes down to love, right? Because if you love yourself, then you trust that you're going to make choices that support that love,
right,
and support you, right? So
and it is more than the sum of its parts in my experience. So one of the things some of my friends know is that I've lost over 100 pounds in the last 3 years, 108 to be exact. And that's because I started trusting myself to know what to eat and what to not eat, and when to move, just how to move. And in that process, I learned how to trust other things, like saying yes to new activities and new opportunities by
or
changing
no,
this. Or no, or no, I'm not going to do that. Or, you know what is right for me tonight is to have this piece of sour cream fudge for dinner. Yep, I did it one day last week and I didn't feel even a little bit bad. And that kind of self-trust is contagious. I believe that you spread it to others when you trust yourself, but I also believe that I trust myself more all the time by reinforcing my daily awareness of what I already trust about myself, so that when I get to a scary bit and I think, gee, can I really be on somebody's podcast this morning? I can say, yeah, because I did these other things. I've got some mileage. I've got
You've got some experience, you've got some perspective, you've got some tools,
yeah.
right. So with that, it's a great ending. I want to thank you very much, Kate, for your time. This has been fantastic talking to you about trust and perspective. If people wanted to get in touch with you or know more about what it is that you do, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
I am Kate, Kate, at sound-sense.net, hard domain name, or you can find Kate Lynn on Facebook or LinkedIn pretty easily. I have always got my smiling face on my profile, so that's probably the best way right now.
You do, and you absolutely look like that. So thank you, everybody, for spending the time listening to Kate and me talk about trust and our different perspectives. They're the same, but different. This is Gail Craft from the Empowering Process podcast. And if this resonated with you, please like it, share it, let us know. And if you know someone who could benefit from this, please let them know. Maybe they should have a listen. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.